time thinking about a student or two from the third 6 weeks that just made like great improvements. Maybe they pulled it through, they passed. If you want to look on your computer to look at focus. Maybe they changed they started showing up. Maybe their attendance changed. Maybe their behavior changed. So if you wanted to spend a little bit of time doing that.
From second to third?
Second to third. All right, Miss Jones.
Mark Calderon.
Okay, good.
Both areas.
Grades and attendance.
Agreed. He still didn't pass, but he can, and he's working on it.
That's awesome.
I'm not logged in.
Do you have one, Coach?
On my caseload, her grades did improve her attendance.
Okay.
Jeanette Bolanos.
Okay.
I mean, she's kind of sticking with it.
That's huge.
So attendance went up. That's awesome. What about you, Coach Beeson?
Tristan Jones, he went from not finishing tests, like just barely, like failing tests, not finishing them, to getting an 80 on his final. So, and he was very excited about that 80. So
That's awesome. Okay with it. Maybe these guys could be our students of the month too. I realize we haven't done that in a while. So maybe we can give some kudos out and celebrations. Alrighty, so, and then the last thing before we get started is just where is your battery level at today? I kind of already know that, Miss Look. But I'm just kidding.
I think I'm about 100%.
Okay, you're about alrighty, so you've got the data analysis protocol in front of you. It's similar to what we've done before, it's just kind of broken down a little bit more in depth for you to see. It should say also, by the way, sorry, data dive, not data drive, okay? So we reviewed our norms and roles. We're gonna be looking at data, and kind of Ms. Stillman already kind of gave you a heads up of what we're looking at. We're gonna establish some roles. Mr. Young and I will kind of be co-facilitators for this, the data presentation. During this time, if you can kind of just silently look at the data, and then we'll have time for lots of discussion, okay? So the data that I'm gonna present to you first, it's gonna be on the board, and I'm gonna give you a copy of it, is our data from the first semester. So how did our kids do overall, our ninth graders, okay? And then we'll look at our individual students and how they did for the third 6 weeks and for the semester. All right, so the first slide you're looking at is all of our ninth graders and how they did for the entire first semester. Okay, I know it's a lot of numbers, colors, and it gets to be a little confusing. We did find out that when they pull this data, they actually have all of the classes. We thought it was just core and world language. It's all 8 classes. So this is accurate, without attendance, but accurate data that we're looking at. Overall, I think our on-track rate is 76%. Our on-track, again, that doesn't include attendance. That's just based on grades. We know we had about 200, a little over 200 that we had to give attendance recovery forms to last week. Quite a few of them showed up yesterday to attendance. So that was overall how they did. So as a whole, we're on the right track, guys. We're doing what we need to do. So thank you for that. Now let's look at our individual data. Okay, so before you pull it up, when you are looking at your data silently, like look at who failed just due to attendance, who failed just due to grades, who failed due to both grades and attendance. And then when we looked at our data the second 6 weeks, I know this was a while ago, I think we asked you all to come up with some individual goals that you had, what your goal was for the third 6 weeks. So think about back to that goal. Did you meet the goal? What still needs to be done? But we'll give you guys maybe about 6 minutes to kind of just dig into that data. Feel free to take notes wherever. This can be your copy, so whatever you need to do.
Right, wherever you need to write, whatever, just take a look at your own personal data and see, what you know.
Just 2 things. I know that this is a lot to absorb in a short amount of time. But I would like for you to think of number 1, just give us your overall reflection of the data, whether it's your own data or the school or both, and just an overall reflection of what you see. And then more more and most importantly, what is a cause for some of these areas of opportunity? What is a cause that we could address and make a plan for that would help these areas of opportunity improve?
Well, I'm seeing of course, a trend in the kids who aren't here are not being as successful. Barriers and attendance, we're gonna say that over and over, but, motivation and purpose, I think the kids, need to understand why we are here, why it's important to learn these skills, so, I think that's a barrier. A lot of kids don't really get the purpose of knowledge and they're not motivated, so I think that.
Coach Matier?
I really like what Miss Luck said there, just wanna echo that, motivation, cause we don't, like, you find a good motivator, you probably are gonna find a good teacher, because if you can motivate students to do something, they're gonna do it. I hadn't even thought about that, I really like what you said there, just a side note. When I look at this data, I like numbers, but this is just numbers to me, and numbers is just numbers, like, I think all the kids who are off track, I would love to see, like, which I know I could sort here, but like, this is the way my brain works, is I would make a poster of those kids and we can identify real quickly and group them. We have an attendance group, you're off track because you do not show up. So that's our first barrier we gotta pass. If they don't show up, we can't fix that barrier. What's the second barrier? They show up to class, they do nothing. That's barrier number 2. And then we can work through the barriers, but obviously first barrier's gotta be attendance. So those kids are separate. Until we get attendance, we don't need to worry about them we just need them to show up. And then our kids are showing up, now we gotta take them the next step. We need them to try. And once they try, now we gotta make them what? Successful. But there's really three different groups. You got your kids who don't attend, you got your kids who show up, do nothing, and you got your kids who try and are failing. So I'm just curious when I look at this, like, of our high-risk kids, of these 27, how many of them are trying and failing? Because that kid, we need to get someone on them ASAP, because if they're still trying, we need to help that kid, because we're gonna lose them.
That was gonna be one of my questions,
Yeah.
can we get a list of who those students are?
You know, now's a good time so they can pass the second half at least.
Great, so that leads us right into our next step, and that is, it sounds like we all agree that attendance is our issue, right? So we have this big giant thing out there, attendance. How can we focus in and put a dent in that attendance? What can we do as a team, as a grade level, to address attendance?
I sort of think it goes back to purpose. I mean, why do they need a high school education? Why do they need that diploma? I mean, I think if they understood what that means to them, maybe that would motivate them to come to school. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of them
I
feel
think
like,
too, you know, to piggyback on that, if we took those students who are, you know, skipping class or whatever, gathered them all together and did things like, you know, I mean, we've mentioned, you know, sort of an ISS or whatever, but do things like restorative circles, discussing with them, making plans for high school, like giving them a purpose and a reason why they're here, why high school's important, what they're gonna do when they're here, and then having people monitor those students. I mean, if we look at the students who have attendance issues, I'm gonna say in the 9th grade, there's probably a group of about 30 kids that are just really hardcore not going to class in the 9th grade. Ish. So, you know.
So if we identify those kiddos and really make a big push as a group, as a team, to circle with them and to try to get a personal relationship with each one of those 30, I mean, that's doable, right?
And like we've been doing overall, tie them to the school, see what they're interested in, see if there's anything we can get them into, number one.
What if, like, out of, like, kind of thinking with that, but like, out of the attendance, like, if they're attending my class but not yours, or vice versa, the teacher they are going to can talk to them. And we could say, so like, give us that list, what class are they not going to? Well, they're coming to ours, maybe they like us, let's say, hey, what can we do to get you to go to English? What's wrong with English? What's wrong with science? How can we get you to do this?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And
Like,
And I
I tell
like
you,
this
just give
Here's
us,
idea
give us
too.
a few names that we just need to kind of talk to.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for us to maybe have like a board or some posters where we visualize student names and figure out which category they fit into, tier them per se, and figure out what interventions they need.
So the other team, they narrowed it down, and what they said is we want to focus on the kids that are here, but not here. The kids that are in the building all day, every day, but they don't go to class.
Oh,
So-
I thought you meant the kids that are in my classroom.
No.
Well,
The
no,
ones
that's
that
not-
wander all day,
I'm talking
right?
about like the young lady you mentioned, and there's so many of them. We know they're here. We got them. We just got to get them in the right spot. So if we took that a step further, not only circle with them and help them with motivation, but we had a top 20 list, or top 25 list, or whatever, of students that if we see them, we're gonna commit to either walk them to class or find somebody to
If we
walk them
see
to
it
class.
right in the hall or something.
Text somebody, call the campus monitor. We can drill down and get more of an action plan from these ideas. Today, obviously, that's not gonna happen, but what do y'all think about that? So to get a timeline established, so we don't just, talk about it and not do anything about it. We'll just keep thinking of some ideas. Ms. YB and I will, and Ms. Garcia and whoever wants to be involved, we'll kind of put more of an action plan together and revisit it next week, and then kind of hone it as we move forward and see how many of these kiddos we can get to class.
Okay,
Or to that
so
data you
as
can
you
bring.
are kind of coming up
to
with
that
your
data you
SMART
bring.
goal for this fourth 6 weeks, if you can just keep these 3 questions in mind, like what students of yours failed for the third 6 weeks or for the semester? What do these students need to do to make, to pass? Can they pass average? Do they know they can do that? And then do students owe attendance recovery hours? So those are the questions to kind of keep in mind as you're coming up with your SMART goal.
And one of the things I did for my kids that can pass average, I sent an email to their parents letting them know that even though they failed this semester, they
Perfect.
have the ability to pass average.
And that's awesome, and maybe more people, we
Right.
can all kind of get on board and we'll see that, that's awesome.
I mean, there were 5 that didn't get it, so I called them.
Right, but still,
And remember, even your kids who have no chance of passing first semester,
this is a new
right,
semester.
it's a brand new
You
semester.
can still earn 4
They can
credits.
still earn 4
New year,
credits.
new
That's
me.
better than none. So, real quick before we end, Ms. Stillman sent out a QR code with our freshman, calendar. If you can get that printed, or if we need to print it for you, put it in your classroom. And then look for a email from us, probably by this afternoon, with just a reflection on today's meeting. Don't feel like you have to do it this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's just that we won't see you until next Friday. So we have a little bit of a gap between our next meeting, okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, y'all are the best.
Yes, awesome.